You can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So today is the third day of myself transacting the lesson Chemical Bonding and Molecular Structure, Chapter 4 of Class 11 Science Chemistry syllabus. Okay, so I continue further with the chapter Chemical Bonding. Now look at this formation of ammonia. This is a covalent molecule. Now, for the formation of ammonia, which is a covalent molecule, we need nitrogen one atom and we need three hydrogen atoms. Nitrogen electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p3 or 2n5. Hydrogen is 1s1 or 1. Okay, so each nitrogen requires three more electrons to acquire a stable noble gas configuration. On the other hand, each hydrogen requires only one electron to achieve the stable helium configuration, which is done by mutually sharing electrons between the nitrogen and hydrogen atoms. So this is how the formation of ammonia has been shown. Okay, the unshared pair of electrons, this is the lone pair. It is also called lone pair of electrons. Okay, and since that lone pair does not participate in bond formation, it is also called non-bonding pair of electrons. Okay, so this was formation of ammonia, which is a covalent molecule. Now the next one on your screen is formation of nitrogen molecule. This will be an example of a multiple bond. A triple bond is there. So two nitrogen atoms, sharing of electrons, okay, and it forms nitrogen molecule, non-bonding electrons, and these are bonding electron pairs, forming a triple bond. Okay, the structure looks like this. And don't forget to put the electron pair on each of the nitrogen atom. Nitrogen shares three pairs of electrons. It makes a triple non-polar covalent bond. It is a triple bond, it is a non-polar covalent bond. Why? Reason is nitrogen nitrogen is equally electronegative with the other nitrogen, since both are same nitrogen atoms. So the nitrogen being equally electronegative, that is why the triple bond which you see in the molecule of nitrogen, it is a non-polar covalent bond. When I say non-polar, I mean the shared pair of electrons, they lie distributed equally between the two nitrogen atoms in the molecule. Now let us look at the next slide with some more examples of covalent molecules. Here we have the electron dot structure of ethene, C2H2. There is a double bond. There is a double bond. Here we have electron dot structure for carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Okay. So when carbon dioxide is formed, the oxygens, they carry two lone pairs each, like this. Okay. So here is ethyne, electron dot structure of ethyne. I can do this way also. Carbon, ethyne, carbon carbon triple bond. Okay, this is ethyne, electron dot structure for ethyne. This is how these molecules are formed by mutual sharing of electrons. So these were some examples: multiple bond, double bond, or a triple bond, or a single bond. Okay. Now, now let us have a look at the necessary conditions for the formation of covalent molecules. This is important. Now both the atoms, combining atoms, they must have four or more electrons, more than four electrons in their outermost shells. That means they must be nonmetals. Both the atoms should have high electronegativity. Electronegativity should be high. Okay, or yeah, correct. Then both the atoms should have high electron affinity and also high ionization potential. That means the electron affinity should be high, the ionization potential should also be high. Okay, so electronegativity, electron affinity, ionization potential values should be high for the formation of covalent compounds. The next point is the electronegativity difference between the two atoms should be zero or negligible, very, very less. Then only they can share electrons mutually. Okay, they approach, they approach, the approach of the atoms towards one another should be accompanied by decrease of energy. So when the atoms, combining atoms, they approach each other, they should accompany by a decrease in their energy. So here there is a slight correction. The approach of the atoms towards one another should be accompanied by a decrease in energy. That means there should be more stability in the molecule. Okay. Then after this, after this factor over here, I would like to add one more factor with regard to the formation, necessary condition for the formation of covalent compound is high nuclear charge and small internuclear distance. That is number 6. The nuclear charge should be high. Nuclear charge should be high. And the internuclear distance should be small, which means indirectly a powerful nucleus or an element having high atomic number or number of protons, okay, and smaller sizes. The nonmetals which are small in size possessing high nuclear charge, high number of neutrons. So this is also one of the necessary conditions for the formation of covalent molecules. Okay. Now let us look at the types of covalent bonds in our next slide. Now, as I've shown you examples in the previous classes and today also, covalent bonds can be classified by the number of shared electrons or the polarity of bonds and the coordination of the atoms. So based on all these factors, based on the number of shared electron pairs, there are basically three types of covalent bonds. The first one is called a single covalent bond, where examples are hydrogen molecule, chlorine molecule, bromine molecule, iodine, hydrogen chloride, ammonia gas, methane, and ethane. Okay. The next one is double covalent bond, when the two pairs of electrons or four electrons are shared between the atoms. And this is called a double covalent bond or simply a double bond. Examples you will find in oxygen molecule, where there is a double bond between the two oxygen atoms. Another one is carbon dioxide, which you have seen in the previous slide, the structure of carbon dioxide. Then there is sulfur dioxide. Then there is ethene, C2H2, two carbon atoms linked by a carbon-carbon double bond. So these are examples of double bond, the second type. Then the third type of covalent bond, which is called triple covalent bond, when three pairs of electrons or six electrons are shared mutually between the two combining atoms, it is known as a triple covalent bond or simply a triple bond. In nitrogen, you will find nitrogen molecule, you'll find a triple bond. You'll find a triple bond in ethyne, acetylene, okay, C2H2, or you'll find a triple bond in cyanide radical, CN. Okay, so these are the types of covalent bonds on this slide. Moving further and looking from the point of polarity of the bond and the coordination of the atoms, there can be three other types of covalent bonds. Okay, so based on the polarity and the coordination, can you hear? Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
somebody was asking something? No. Okay, fine. So based on the polarity and the coordination means how many atoms are linked to this maybe central atom. Okay, so and polarity means which in a molecule which atom, which combining atom is more negative, which one is more positive, that way, that is polarity. Okay, polarity results because of the electronegative behavior of one of the combining atoms. So based on these two aspects over here, we can classify these covalent bonds into these types, the following types mentioned below. The first one is called polar covalent bond. Polar. A covalent bond is likely to be polar when the atoms sharing the electrons have a significant difference in their electronegativities, that is between 0.1 to 2. So this electronegativity is between the combining atom, if it is between 0.1 to 2, as a result, the bonded pair is attracted towards whom? Towards the atom which is more electronegative, making that atom slightly negative and the other atom slightly positive. So because of that, in the covalent molecule, we see small charges. We see small charges. For example, if I talk about hydrogen chloride, because of the electronegative behavior of chlorine atom, the hydrogen becomes slightly positive and the chlorine is slightly negative. So that makes this bond a polar bond, where you will find the shared pair of electrons slightly towards the more electronegative atom. Examples of polar covalent compounds are water or chloroform or methanol, hydrogen chloride, and even ammonia. Okay. Then moving to the next classification of covalent bond, non-polar covalent bond. Now, in this situation, when we are talking about non-polar covalent bond, please keep in mind that the electronegative difference between the two atoms is negligible or zero, to be more accurate. Then you will find the electrons are equally shared between the atoms. In this case, the covalent bond is non-polar. So we can have a look over there: hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, methane. These are some examples of non-polar compounds where you will find non-polar bonds. Okay. The other type with respect to coordination, it's called coordinate bond or simply dative covalent bond. You have some idea from class 10 also. Now in this type of bond, the shared pair of electrons in the compound or in the species or in the radicals, it is contributed by one of the combining atoms. Okay, so this kind of bond is typically observed in the bonding of metal ions to ligands, which we'll be learning in the chapter coordination chemistry when we reach class 12. Okay, now examples of coordination compounds are boron trifluoride, ammonia also when it combines with ammonium, dimer of aluminum chloride, nitric acid, carbon monoxide, hydronium ion, and ammonium ion. Okay, so these are examples of compounds where you can see coordinate covalent bond or simply dative covalent bond. Then the next subtopic in this chapter which I want to discuss with you all today, it's called dipole moment. Dipole, pole, two poles. Because of the two poles, there is an interaction in the molecule. So the molecule is in a state of motion. So you have learned the word moment in class 10 physics, but here in class 11 chemistry, there is a word, combined word, which is called dipole moment. Now, What is dipole moment? Let me explain that first to all of you. Now, please keep in mind that dipole moment arises in any system in which there is a separation of charge. So, wherever you have separation of charges, then there is a dipole moment originating from the positive atom in the direction of the negative atom. It is directional. It is directional. Okay, so there they can therefore arise in ionic bonds as well as covalent bonds. Dipole moments occur due to the difference in electronegativity between the two chemically bonded atoms. Now, to define precisely what is a dipole moment, okay, you can say that it is a measure. It is a measure how much measure of polarity of a chemical bond. How much polar a bond is. If the dipole moment is very high, the molecule is highly polar. If the dipole moment is less, the molecule is less polar. If the dipole moment is zero, the molecule is non-polar. So it's a measure of the polarity of a chemical bond between two atoms in a molecule. It involves the concept of electric dipole moment, which is a measure of separation of negative and positive charges in a system. Obviously, definitely you will find these charges in a system in molecules may be small, very, very small, but they are carrying charges. Now, as you know, what is a vector quantity from class 10, direction. Dipole moment is also a vector quantity since it has both magnitude and direction. It has a magnitude from the positive charge atoms towards the negative charge atoms. It has a direction, okay, towards the negative, and it has a magnitude also 1.8 diopter. The unit for measuring dipole moment, it is 1.8 diopter. Unit is diopter, okay. Mu. This mu stands for. This is the symbol to represent this dipole moment over here in this chapter, okay. Now, is this dipole moment clear to all of us?
Yes, sir.
So dipole moment, it is what? It is a measure. It is a measure of how highly polar or how lowly polar a covalent compound or covalent bond or an ionic bond is. Okay, it's a measure. Remember this definition. Okay. Then moving further to the next slide over here with regard to the formula now. The symbol of dipole moment you already know. It's mu. Okay. Now looking at the formula, this dipole moment, it is obtained by multiplying the charge with the distance between the charges, like the distance of separation between the charges. Okay, so it is the product of the magnitude of the charge and the distance between the centers of the positive and the negative charge. So it is denoted by the Greek letter mu. Mathematically, I will request you to remember this formula. Mu is equal to Q, capital Q or small q, into charge separation R. This R stands for the distance between the positive nucleus and the negative nucleus of that atom, which is of the two atoms which have combined to form a covalent bond or an ionic bond. Okay. Now, with regard to the units, it's a vector quantity, which I told you already. Dipole moment is measured in dBA units. Okay, denoted by capital D. 1 dBA is 3.33564 10 to the minus 30 cm, where C is coulomb and M denotes a meter. Okay, so remember D stands for dBA. Step B. Okay. Now, the bond dipole moment that arises in a chemical bond between two atoms of different electronegativities can be expressed by the formula. Okay. Either you write mu is equal to delta D. Okay. Where mu is a dipole moment and delta is the magnitude of the partial charges, positive and negative charges. Okay. And D is the distance between them. Okay. Now, we know that it is a vector quantity whose direction is parallel to the bond axis. If you look at the diagram in the previous slide over here, direction is parallel to the bond axis this way. Okay, it is directional. Now, in chemistry, the arrows that are drawn in order to represent dipole moment begin at the positive charge and end at the negative charge. So when we put the symbol for dipole moment, we put an arrow and cross the arrow at the tail of the arrow like this to represent the symbol for dipole moment. When two atoms of varying electronegativities interact, the electrons tend to move from their initial position to come closer to the more electronegative atom. This movement of electrons can be represented via the dipole moment formula or the symbol over here. For example, talking about hydrogen fluoride, HF. Fluorine is more electronegative, so you will find the electrons closer to fluorine, but to represent dipole moment, we use this arrow pointing towards fluorine and cross the arrow at the tail. Okay. So, are you clear with the mathematical formula for dipole moment? Provided the charge is given, okay, coulombs, and the distance is given. Can you calculate dipole moment if I give you simple numericals in the examination?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so anybody has got any question regarding dipole moment? So just remember the starting sentence, dipole moment is a measure. It is a measure of the polarity of the bond in ionic compounds as well as covalent compounds. Okay. Now, moving further, my dear students, to the next slide. You have been hearing about sigma and pi bonds in the previous classes also. Okay, so let me just finish this in detail today. Now, these sigma and pi bonds are types of covalent bonds that differ in the overlapping atomic orbitals. Covalent bonds are formed by the overlapping atomic orbitals. Sigma bonds are a result of the head-to-head overlap. Yesterday I showed you the video also. Whenever orbitals overlap head-to-head, head-on overlap, then they will form sigma. Otherwise, if the orbitals are overlapping sideways, lateral overlap, then they will form pi bonds. Okay, remember that. Now, there are various parameters which I have discussed in my previous class in the second day of this chapter, which are bond length, bond angle, or bond enthalpy, depend on the way the overlapping of orbital generally takes place. This overlap occurs in two major ways, giving rise to two primary types of covalent bonds, which are called sigma and pi bonds. So, this is in somewhat more detail regarding to sigma and pi bond formation in covalent compounds. Now, firstly, the sigma bond, the type of bond is formed by, I told you, head-on overlap, head-on positive, same phase, overlap of atomic orbitals along the internuclear axis. So if there is overlap of the orbitals, like this one, another orbital overlapping on it only, okay? So that type of overlap, okay, same phases are overlapping on top of each other. That time we get a sigma bond, okay? The electrons participating in a sigma bond are commonly referred to as sigma electrons. So next time I ask what is the number of sigma electrons between a molecule of nitrogen. If this is the question, what will be answer? What is the number of sigma electrons between a molecule of nitrogen? So what will be answer? Tell me. Yes. If I ask you the question, what is the number of sigma electrons between the molecule of nitrogen, then this is pi, and this one is sigma. So how many electrons are there on the sigma bond? Tell me. How many electrons are there? One or two? In a nitrogen molecule on the sigma bond, how many electrons are there? Nobody? It is two electrons. There are two electrons. Two electrons are making this sigma bond. The other two are pi bonds. Okay. Now let us move to the next slide. A difference between sigma and pi bonds. The key differences. Sigma bonds formed by overlapping, head-on overlapping. The overlapping orbitals must be unhybridized. This must be pure or hybrid. Sigma bonds are strong and have high bond energies. Pi bonds are relatively weaker comparatively. Sigma bonds can exist independently. Pi bonds must exist along with a sigma bond, and sigma bonds, they have an impact on the shape of the molecule, but pi bonds, they have no role in determining the shape of the molecules. Okay, this we will see in our other slides to follow.
Sir,
Now, yes,
so in the previous slide, how did you differentiate the sigma and pi bonds?
this one, this one.
Yes, sir, that nitrogen. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the sigma bond, no, if the orbitals, say this is a p, say this one is a pz orbital, okay? I bring another pz orbital, okay? Pz, okay? If they overlap this way, if they come closer, this overlap results in the formation of sigma bond, okay? Am I clear? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, if the orbitals, they overlap this way, this is say px or py, okay? If they come closer now, if they come closer, overlap this way on top of each other, then it forms a pi bond. Am I clear? Am I clear now?
Yes, sir.
So I'm taking example of p orbitals only. I can have s orbitals also. S orbitals orientation, since s orbitals are spherical, s orbitals always result in the formation of sigma bonds. Are you getting it? Because we
Yes,
cannot
sir.
have head-on overlap for s orbitals. We can always have the same type of overlap in s orbital. But in case of p orbitals or say d orbitals or higher f orbitals, we can have more complicated overlap between the orbitals. Okay, so I think that is clear, no? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's make this overlapping clear. Okay, in the next slide. The first type of overlapping, it's called SS overlapping. It is called, it is called what? It is called SS overlapping. Do
Yes,
you see that? Do you see that SS overlapping? The first type of
yes,
overlapping,
sir.
it is called SS overlapping. Keep it in mind, okay? Now this overlapping, SS overlapping over here, one s orbital from each participating atom undergoes head-on overlapping along the internuclear axis. An s orbital must be half-filled before it overlaps with the other s orbital. That means they must be half-filled. One electron here, another electron here. This s orbital, one electron, opposite spin, the other s orbital, another electron. So after combining, when they have overlapped, when the electrons are paired, then we will have them together with opposite spin. This we have seen in the previous chapter, atomic structure, when we learned the principles like Aufbau principle, Pauli's exclusion principle, Hund's rule and all. Okay. Now, this type of overlap occurs in molecules like hydrogen, where each hydrogen atom has half-filled s orbital. Is this clear, my dear boys? SS overlapping? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, moving to the next type of overlap. When an s orbital overlaps with a p orbital, let us see what happens. Look at this diagram over here. S orbital, spherical, no? Is it spherical? S orbital, it is spherical, no? It is
Yes,
spherical in
sir.
shape. Look at this p orbital. P orbital, it is a dumbbell. If you are going to the gym, then you will find over the dumbbells. It is somewhat similar to a dumbbell shape. Okay. So whenever an s orbital and a p orbital overlap, this mixing of orbitals, it comes under a topic which is called hybridization. Mixing of atomic orbitals result in hybrid orbitals. And this overlapping of s and p orbital is called sp overlapping. So s orbital is spherical, p orbital is dumbbell shaped. So now once the orbitals have overlapped, you will find electrons in this entire region or space in the electron cloud. Okay, so here one half filled s orbital overlaps with one half filled p orbital along the internuclear axis, forming a covalent bond. The nuclear axis, the internuclear axis for p orbital is just cut it off from the center. This type of overlapping can be observed in molecules like, you can talk about ammonia. Okay, an ammonia molecule features three sigma bonds formed by the overlap of 2px, 2py, 2pz orbitals belonging to the nitrogen atom and 1s orbital of the three hydrogen atoms. Okay, so if we look at nitrogen, nitrogen atomic number is 7. Okay, and we have our electrons 1s2, 2s2, 2px1, 2py1, and 2pz1. You can see each of the p orbitals, 2px, 2py, and 2pz, they are having one electron, no? One electron. So these are all p orbitals. So these three p orbitals, they overlap head-on with the three s orbitals of the three hydrogen atoms, which are spherical in shape, containing one electron each. So they overlap, and then that is how ammonia molecule is formed, leaving one electron lone pair. This is the lone pair which is present on the s orbital, s subshell. Am I clear? Am I clear? SP overlapping. Am I clear with the SP overlapping?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us have a look at the next overlapping. Okay, that is called PP overlapping. When a p orbital overlaps with another p orbital. Okay, so you're getting a complicated shape over here, PP overlapping. Now in this condition, one half-filled p orbital from each participating atom undergoes head-on overlapping along the internuclear axis. If you take an example, chlorine molecule, it has atomic number 17. If you write down the electronic configuration, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, then it is 3p3. Just check total 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 3p6. Just check the total 3p5. Okay, that is 17. Okay, now this p orbital of the chlorine atom, it has 5 electrons. Of each chlorine atom, it has 5 electrons. Just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all these orbitals, these electrons are occupying the orbitals single. Okay, so when you form a chlorine molecule, then there is sharing of electrons. One odd electron is shared. Okay, and then they overlap and form a single bond. That is how we get chlorine here, chlorine here. The electrons, two electrons get shared, and the other electrons remain as lone pairs on each of the chlorine atoms. So here this overlapping which has happened, it is because of the pp overlap, because it is the p electrons, 3p electrons which are participating in bond formation. Okay, so that was an example by taking example of chlorine molecule. So p orbital, another p orbital. This is how the diagram of a pp overlapping looks like. Okay, now have a look at another slide over here. Once more, with regard to a better diagram for the pi bond, look at this. This orbitals overlapping, it is forming. Okay, it's forming over here sigma bond, head-on overlap, and this are overlapping sideways. They're overlapping sideways to form. You can see pi bond. They're overlapping sideways, so that is going to form pi bond containing two electrons. The sigma bond also contains two electrons. So here it is a case of a double bond. It is a case of a carbon-carbon double bond. So if you have a carbon-carbon double bond, it is an alkene. It is an alkene. Example of an alkene is ethene. Okay. If you look at the paragraph over here, now we know that pi bonds are formed by the sideways positive same phase overlap of atomic orbitals along a direction perpendicular to the internuclear axis. Internuclear axis is this one. Okay, and it's perpendicular to the overlap. Okay, the axis of the atomic orbitals are parallel to each other, whereas the overlapping is perpendicular to the internuclear axis. Now we must keep in mind that the pi bonds are generally weaker than sigma bonds, owing to the significantly lower degree of overlapping. Generally, on the whole, double bond consists of one sigma and one pi bond, whereas a typical triple bond is made up of two pi bonds and a sigma bond. So that's why it is important to see at the single bond, double bond, and triple bond with regard to the strength. If we are having a single bond, hydrogen-hydrogen single bond, or if you are having a say oxygen-oxygen double bond, or nitrogen-nitrogen triple bond, among these three bonds, on the whole, if you look at it, the nitrogen-nitrogen triple bond will have the highest bond energy. Highest bond energy. That means it is the most stable. When lesser stable, this is the least stable or more reactive. Okay, so this was with regard to the pi bond, okay, in detail. So I believe and I am very sure that the concept of pi bond, the concept of polarity, non-polarity, okay, the bond parameters are clear to all of you today. Okay, so now since it is almost time, I would like to end my class over here, but please hang on because I need to record the attendance also for today's class. But make sure you revise whatever has been done in today's class. Make it a point to revise in the evening itself. Okay, so I'm going to record the attendance. Your attendance is being downloaded. It is downloaded now. You may leave the class. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.